الحمد لأهله والصلاة على أهلها. Peace and salutations of God be upon the Prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad, and his progeny. Salawat.
Allahumma salli Allah Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Brothers and sisters, peace be with you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali
We
Muhammad.
are here today to commemorate and to remember the sacrifices and the message of a person who Muslims know of as the Prince of Martyrs, the grandson of the Messenger of God and the Prophet who brought us the religion and the teachings of Islam, Imam Hussein ibn Ali.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farjahum.
And for those of us who have the honor of recognizing the value of the sacrifices and the role model that we have in our Imam, it is both an honor to be able to commemorate and to remember his life, and it is a responsibility. There are two principal values that we can think of when we think of Imam Hussein. And both of these are essential Islamic values, but they are too easily forgotten as we go through life and as we face different trials and challenges. The first of these values is that a true Muslim, a believer in the message of the Prophet of Islam, should never be an oppressor, should never do wrong towards any other creation of God, not to another human being, another Muslim, a non-Muslim, not even to an animal, not even to the environment. Nothing that has been created by God should be wronged or should be oppressed by a Muslim. And the other equally important value, but one that is sometimes easier to forget, is that a Muslim should also not submit to being oppressed or being wronged. That is symbolized in the motto of Imam Hussein, which has become the eternal motto of his followers, Hayhat minna dhilla.
Hayhat minna dhilla. Hayhat minna dhilla. Hayhat minna dhilla. Hayhat minna dhilla.
And that slogan, Hayhat minna dhilla, means that we will never submit to being oppressed or being put down, but we will stand up for what is right. In Islam, it is just as wrong and just as subject to criticism to submit to oppression as it is to oppress. Because if a person submits to oppression, that person is allowing an unjust system, allowing oppression to continue. So in Islam, we have two values that are represented in the life and in the struggle of Imam Hussein. One is that a Muslim should not oppress, and the other is that a Muslim should not submit or allow themselves to be subjected to injustice. But sometimes both of those principles cannot be maintained together. We have a choice either between oppressing or being subject to oppression. And when there is a choice, the natural tendency of every human being is to prevent harm from coming to our own selves. So we say that if I don't have a choice to neither oppress nor be oppressed, then I would rather do an injustice to somebody else than to suffer myself. And here again, we have a very beautiful role model in the Prophet of Islam and in his successors, and most especially in Imam Hussein. The basic principle is to disallow any form of oppression, either the doing or the suffering of it. But if there is a choice between the two and one of them must be submitted to, then what we learn from the Imam is that it is far worse to be an oppressor than to be subjected to oppression. If a believer has to make the choice, then we should be willing to suffer the consequences or to suffer oppression, but never allow ourselves to become oppressors. So that ability to recognize the importance of standing up for the truth and that ability to suffer the consequences of having principles and not to project them onto others. These are the eternal messages of Imam Hussein. And one thing that we learn from the Imam is that this is not to be limited to our remembrance of Karbala itself. In fact, Islam introduced a culture of martyrdom, and more important than martyrdom, a culture of self-sacrifice. And that didn't begin from Karbala, it was only to reach its greatest instance and its culmination in Karbala. But it was begun by the Prophet himself. Whenever the cause of Islam, whenever the cause of human decency and justice was under threat, the Prophet always asked and he always expected those nearest and those dearest to him to be the first to sacrifice. And that sacrifice came with their time, it came with their material possessions, and it even came with their life. It wasn't that the Prophet was not pained at their departure, or at the sacrifices, or at the sufferings they had. But it was that the Prophet wanted the honor of those who were closest to him to be an honor of dedication to Islam. I will mention just one example, although there are many examples that we can mention from the Prophet's life. And this was the Prophet's uncle Hamza. Because it was the Prophet's uncle Hamza who fought bravely and was martyred in the Battle of Uhud, who we can say properly established that culture of self-sacrifice and martyrdom that was considered to be the heritage of the family and the progeny of the Prophet, and that was continued by true and dedicated Muslims in every generation. The Prophet's uncle Hamza was killed in battle in defense of Islam in the Battle of Uhud. And several traditions were started from that time. One was the visitation and the keeping alive of the memory of the martyrs. The Prophet's beloved daughter Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha,
Allahumma